experienced deja vu? Have you ever been someplace that you swear, even though you've never been there, that you know exactly how everything's laid out? Have you ever met somebody that you just click with and it feels like you're old friends, and before you know it, 5 hours have gone by and you're still talking to them and having a great time? If you've experienced these things, it's probably because you've lived in past lives. But how do you know anything about these past lives? How do you know who you were, where you've been, who you were friends with? Well, stay with us. We're going to discover a lot about that today. Hi guys, welcome to What the What with Sam. I'm Sam. Let's dive into it. So, obviously you're watching this video because you've experienced some of the things that I mentioned in the beginning here. So with deja vu and knowing someone that you never had met before, being in a place that you swear you know where everything is. Like, I've been in buildings that I knew exactly where I was going, but I had never been there before. These are signs that you have lived past lives. And I'm going to explain a few of these, okay? So, I did a video before, I'll link it to this one, about the basics of past lives. This kind of just gives you, kind of backs it up a little bit and gives you some inclination of whether you might have been or here before. And so let's dive into it, you know? So first of all, deja vu we'll get to last. So if you're interested in that, hang with me, but you'll understand why once I get there. Being in other places or meeting familiar people that you've never met or never been to before are common signs that you have lived a past life before. And instead of watching some other video where, you know, somebody reads something to you, an actual person can describe this, I feel, a lot better. So, I recently talked to my sister, and we got on this conversation, and anytime I talk to anybody about these topics, guys, it's just like the flood of information comes out. And I was like, you know what, this would make a great video. This would get people, you know, into kind of deciphering whether they've been here before. So that's why I wanted to pass on this information. And during my discussion with her, you know, we talked a little bit about how she says, well, you know, I've got some places that I've always had kind of a feeling for. And I said, okay, all right, you know, nodding my head. Yeah, I know what that means. And she says, well, why would I do that? So let me explain. If you have had in the past a strong connection at any given time in your life, and it means different things at different times in your lives, but I'll get to that in a second. So let's say for some odd reason you are just really wanting to visit Peru. You have no idea why, right? And you don't know anybody in Peru, but you've always just found the culture fascinating, or the food, or anything from it, but you just keep thinking about Peru in the back of your head. That is probably because one of your past lives was a good life in Peru. Now, there's also the backside to this, okay? So if there are countries, and I have this, and for years and years, I just figured this one out, in fact. So for years and years and years and years, I have always hated France. No idea why. Nobody ever told me to hate France. It wasn't in my upbringing. I couldn't stand the sound of the accent. I just thought everything, except for baguettes, because I love French breads. I just thought everything that came out of France was just horrible. And I had no logical explanation for it. And recently I did a past life, and I've taught myself how to do these periodically while I'm sleeping. And it turns out I had a horrible life in France. Absolutely horrible. And if you guys want to hear more about that, give me a comment and I'll do a whole video on that particular past life. But guys, I woke up so upset and so angry. I called my daughter and I said, listen, I am really pissed off at Hitler right now and I just need to vent. And she's like, go. I mean, that's how our family is because they're used to me at this point. But it all came down to something that happened to me in World War II, and it was atrocious. Absolutely hated everything about France simply because I had a horrible past life in France. Weird, right? Now, on the other hand, I had always dreamed of going to Spain. And I love the Hispanic accents, which is probably why I've typically dated Hispanic men. But right around my mid-20s, I really got into Spanish stuff. And I did in high school as well. But then it kind of went away and it came back. And this was the past life that I spoke a little bit about in my previous video. But that life meant a lot to me. Not that, you know, everything worked out perfectly. Not that I was absolutely loved and everything went right in my life. I simply loved that life. I loved the people that were in my life, in that life. Speaking of which, in both of those instances, people from my present life, I was able to recognize in those lives. So far, my adopted father was in one of my past lives. My youngest daughter has been in one of my past lives. My aunt has been in one of my past lives. You do get to see who they are. And I'm going to explain that next because that's very important. People are always asking me, well, how will I know if I know that person when I see them? And so let me explain this really quickly. And it's very simple, even though it seems like it might be more complicated, okay? So when you go into a past life regression, it's a form of hypnosis. And like you're dreaming. And so you can see everything just like you would in a dream. Okay? So the people that you see in your dreams, you see them as they were in that past life. However, the cells in your body remember everything. Absolutely everything. It's called cell memory. Okay? So the cells in your body, even though your eyes are seeing one thing, your cell memory is going to be like, that is my father. That is my brother in this life. Even though their names in my past life were this or that or whatever. Your brain will show you the pictures, but your cells are going to tell you who they are to you in this life. You will know that. It's just instant. It's like two thoughts at the same time. Okay? Now, pushing on from that, when you are meeting somebody for the first time and you have this sense of, oh my gosh, this is the coolest person. And for some reason, like you cannot get words out fast enough. It's like you're almost catching up with that person instead of meeting them for the first time. And I have not only been a part of this, I've also been witness to this with someone else having this happen to them. Okay? So in my past life in Spain, my adopted father in this life and my godmother were married and they were my parents in Spain. And I didn't know this until much after they had met. But once I had this past life regression and realized that they were married in another life, everything finally made sense. Because my father had flown down to Texas to hang out with me and my kids one year. And I said, you really need to meet my godmother. And so we go out to lunch. And it was just the three of us because my kids were in school. We had to wait for the kids to get out of school. And guys, if you can't tell, I love to be the talker, right? I don't think anybody does YouTube videos if they don't like to talk. I could not get a word in edgewise. They had never spoken to each other. They knew of each other, but never had one word to each other before this. And for the next hour and a half, I am sitting there and I'm eating my lunch, and I am just like watching this unfold before my very eyes. And my father, who is not a talker, he's a very reserved person. He can't get enough out. It's like word vomit just all over. And my godmother was the same way. And I was like, this is so bizarre. And of course, at that point, I had no idea what was happening. I just thought, wow, that was odd. Maybe it's because they were both military or something. I don't know. But of course, years later, I realized they were married in another life. They were just two souls sitting at lunch in this present life that were catching up with each other. And they recognized each other. And it's just that simple. Okay, so for the third topic today, we are going to cover deja vu. Okay, and I love when I have deja vu. Every single time of my adult life that I have moved, away from my parents, I have had deja vu. And I love that, because deja vu is telling you that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. That is a gift from your spirit guide saying you're right on track. The move you just made is a good move. This is where you're supposed to be. And so when I moved here to be with my dad to help take care of him, 3-4 days later, I had this deja vu of, oh my gosh, I'm living in a camper in my dad's backyard. I've sold everything and I'm here to take care of him. And I was like, okay, good. Oh, thank God. Because my kids are thousands of miles away. And I wanted to make sure that I did the right thing. And so, again, thank you, Arthur, my spirit guide, for sending me that little message. And it was so validating, guys. So don't look at deja vu as just one of those dismissive, oh, whatever types of things, because it's very significant. It is there to tell you that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. You are with who you're supposed to be with, and you are in the place that you are supposed to be. So there you have it. Just the basics. If you guys want to learn more, let me know. Also, I have done some thinking about doing past life regressions with some YouTube viewers. And if you're interested, please leave me a comment below. If you are willing to share your story, this session will be free. So let me know if there's anything. I would just want to get some of these stories out so that people can kind of understand firsthand what this is and is it real. And if it's coming from you guys, that just shows the rest of the community that we are behind you and that we believe that you can do it too. Thank you so much for watching What the What. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you next video.